Sorry, I know nobody. I don't even think anybody was watching, but we'll try never to have interruptions like that. But I did have a call come in from a client that was like unexpected, and I figured I better jump on to find out since nobody else was on the live stream. In the future, I don't know. I'm going to try to just avoid that happening. Period. This is our time to talk and time to work. So we're going to spend about a 30-minute run here, just working on some business. Let me quickly switch views. To this demo. Why is it not working? A lot of this is just me trying to learn too. Okay, let's try this. So there we go. That's what I was trying to do. All right. So what we talked about is, we need a starting place. And one of the easiest starting places is actually to use AI to help a little bit. So we go, you're going to see me live prompt and some of this. It's going to be a little awkward, but I'm looking to launch an e-commerce business selling herbs and spices. Well, let's just call it spices, rubs, and other seasonings. I need a checklist. Okay, so we need a checklist for launching the business that is comprehensive, but also detailed. I already know in advance. There's a couple things I know just from marketing. Like I know I'm going to use Shopify for this. Shopify does have a free, like a 30-day trial build out that we'll utilize for this. I'll be using Shopify for the site. Okay, so we'll go ahead and just start there. Just see what AI gives us. Now, obviously, there's a lot of this I already know how to do, but it's nice to have a formal checklist, something we can work with in order to be able to do that. And I'm actually, while I'm waiting for it to work on that, behind the scenes here, I'm actually going to go in and I'm going to create an actual checklist in a Google Sheet, just so that we have a formal worksheet that we're going to work off of. You guys will see this come back and forth as we work through it. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a new Google Doc. Kind of feel like I want to do this in Google Sheets, actually. So it's still working on it. And this is part of Claude. Claude takes some time, but Claude actually does. I'll say this, guys. I've used ChatGPT for years, and it is a phenomenal resource. Claude is, for me, the next level. It really is a phenomenal resource for helping to do with all this stuff. And it's actually going to give us an all to do done. Like it creates its own user interface and interactivity and things like that are actually kind of cool. So it's trying to put in like a pinch of Shopify detail, a bunch of things. We've got a long plan for this. I really need to stop saying, don't I? I'm on a live stream. Gosh, gotta learn. One of the plans that we have is to bring in a spreadsheet once the site is built to go through an audit and make sure that we build it with best practices involved. That's a fully different structure. Okay, so it gave us this as a way of checklist, and we could come through here and check this stuff. My one issue with doing it directly in Claude is that we're just working through all these individual things. And if I have to come back to the chat and I miss it and things like that, like I just don't want to do that. I want to work directly in this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and I'm going to ask it to reformat it. Can you reformat this into a spreadsheet / table format so I can put it in a Google Sheet? And that's just a personal preference. When I look at all these individual things, I love the way they are. And you literally could work off of this and just come in and click them and pull them in and out. So step one was just getting a launch pad, getting some frame of a blueprint for us to be able to launch this, get it up to date and up to going, and really just try to make it happen. And we're not necessarily going to do all of this in order. Some of these things I'll probably do them off screen, not live. And the main reason for that is just privacy of certain individuals. So for example, opening a dedicated bank account, like that's a very reasonable, easy thing to do. You basically just walk into your bank, go, hey, here's my LLC, here's my business, here's my EIN, and you set up a bank account. What we don't want to have to do is film that and try to film that and have a bank have an issue with it or anything. Like it's just not worth the effort. So we'll probably report back on certain things being done. Just go, hey, we went to the bank today, got this stuff, we have our bank account, kind of a thing. Okay, so it's been working on it. Let's see. It's still working on the sheet, but this is honestly a comprehensive list. Let's take a look through this, and I'll tell you if there's anything I kind of disagree with here. It's actually going to give us an Excel form, so that's great. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to download this, and then I'll just drop it directly into my Google Drive. That's actually the easiest way. And this is one of the cool things. As you guys can see, it's formatted. This is one of the cool things about Claude that I love is it really just formats it for you. So we're going to come over to this sheet that's actually here. There's an actual check mark that we can fill in for whether or not we've done it. And we'll run through some of these. For the easiest option to get started, we are going to do an LLC for privacy reasons and for some things like that, just because we don't need a super big problem with anybody trying to use our LLC numbers or things like that. I'm going to go ahead and just click that these are done. Well, there's the one part it hasn't done well, which is this. Oh, it has the status over here. Okay. So status over here, we'll do done. Registering your business name in progress. Now, you could do a C Corp, an S Corp. You could do a bunch of different things when you're starting out a business, and there's different reasons for doing all of them. And in fact, if you guys want to have a breakdown on that and know how to do it, where to do it, how to actually make it work, what I really want to recommend is a book by one of my friends. She's an amazing author. She's an amazing attorney. It's called Ready, Set, Launch. This is by Courtney Jared Bannon, Esquire. I'll actually drop a link to this. I'll go back to the replay of these and drop a link to this. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Courtney, I'll just leave it down here. Courtney has so much information in here on launching your business, and it's from the perspective of an attorney. So, and she's a corporate attorney. She's worked with some very big people, very big names. She's a wonderful person and super smart. So she puts this whole thing together to help you from the legal side of putting your business together to make sure you're using the right business entity, the mission statements, understanding funding and capital. I'm just going through her list here. Crowdfunding, the pitch deck, how to build a team, and legal things around employees and human resources. So when you go to hire your first employee, making sure you don't interview and say questions that you're not supposed to say. She just does a fantastic job. So again, Ready Set Launch is actually going to be one of my recommendations if you want to make sure you're launching and picking the right legal entity, doing everything else. I gotta make sure this isn't actually done. I think I may have actually created the EIN already for this business. Open a bank account. That one's not done yet. We'll do that tomorrow. Seller's permit and sales tax license. Now this is an interesting one. It's required in most U.S. states to collect sales tax. And to be honest, this is a side of e-commerce I know nothing about. So we're going to actually come back and ask some information. We're going to learn a little bit here. Are e-commerce sites required to collect state sales tax? And if so, is it for the state they are in or the state the customer is in? Do I have to have state sales tax accounts with... Now, a business major probably knows the answer to this. Some of you may already know the answer to this. I just want to make sure I have relatively up-to-date information. Actually asking an attorney would be helpful, but attorneys also cost money. And most of this, honestly, is available on the internet, and so Claude and stuff is pretty accurate with it. So we're going to ask it and get some info here. So we are required to collect state tax, and it's based on the customer's state, not ours. Okay. So this is actually apparently South Dakota sued Wayfair. So states can require out-of-state sellers to collect sales tax even without a physical presence. Most states now have a threshold, which is either 200 transactions in a state or $100,000 in sales. Now that's tricky because you can look at it and go $100,000 in sales. I'd have to sell a lot to make that. But the 200 transactions, that's what's going to actually bite us in the butt here. Because if you're talking like a spice or an herb, let's say we're going to sell them for $10 a bottle, something like that. Just as an example, we'll actually do a pricing model and figure things out. But let's say we're going to say $10 a bottle. Well, 200 bottles, 200 transactions is only $2,000. So you could actually qualify for this well under the sales mark just for that. And so it's going to be, we're required to collect and remit that state's sales tax. So when we're small, we really only need to worry about the home state. For example, we're in Utah. As you grow and cross thresholds in other states, your obligations expand. So you actually need to register a sales tax permit in each state where you have Nexus before you start collecting there. Okay, it's where you have Nexus. So this is a good thing to actually know. And this is another thing where we're going to use AI to help us here. Apparently Shopify Tax can actually help you with this. So Shopify actually has a bunch of features that's built in, handles the rate calculations and Nexus monitoring. So we don't really have to know. Like if you're using Shopify, it'll tell you. I don't know that WooCommerce does necessarily, but there's some other ones. So TaxJar does it, very, very popular. And there's some other options you can do. So if I were to come in and say, just for our information, I can't spell, information, can you put together a table of each state and their Nexus as well as their sales tax base? Rate, I guess we'll say it's a rate, not a base. So we're just trying to get some more info so that we can kind of know, because this is one of those things too, as you start getting into purchasing sales, obviously Shopify Tax is going to handle a lot of that. But once we get into marketing and running ads and things like that, we might find there's certain states that the Nexus and the parameters are just not going to be worth advertising in to get to start. I mean, when you're starting, you're doing it on a minimum budget, which is what we're doing. We're bootstrapping this. There's no investors. There's no big money, no big loans. We're just going to bootstrap this from the ground up. So I just want to have some extra info and get a spreadsheet, a table, something like that we can at least kind of know where we're at. Obviously, Utah sales tax is a 4.85% base. And then local rates, depending on counties, things like that, can push up to 6 to 9% more, which is crazy. I mean, that's a lot. That's 10% of your revenue if you're not building it in as an extra surplus, which you should be. So we're going to let this run. Claude's kind of figuring this out. And while it's working on that, let's actually go back to the checklist and just see what else we have next. So, okay, the bank account, the seller's permit, license tax, we'll work that out as well in another one of these videos. Research food and food handler laws in your state. That's going to be another one we're going to use Claude for. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to open up another instance of Claude. Just go. I'm actually going to pull this almost directly from there. So I want to grab this. Determine if I need a food handler's license or a commercial kitchen to produce spice blends. This could be a snag in the road if we need a commercial kitchen, but you can rent time in one, so we'll find out. And seasonings. We are launching this business in Utah. So again, we want to make sure we're compliant. It would be really easy to just go ahead and go, oh, let's go put our blends together, stick them in a bottle, slap them on the internet, and go sell them. But it's all about legalities, and that's just a big thing we want to make sure we're going to be compliant with. So we want to come take a look and make sure we understand these laws. So in Utah, what's required? Product qualifies under the cottage food program. So dry herbs, seasonings, mixes are explicitly listed as permitted food products in Utah. The herbs must be limited to those commonly used to flavor as described in this. So medicinal herbs and dietary supplements are not allowed. We're not really using those. I really can't think of any. Okay, let me put that. There's a caveat there that we are going to have to do a little research into, because I do not know what it qualifies as a medicinal herb. And so that is going to be one of those things we're going to have to make a distinction on and understand this 21 CFR 182.1, because there might be certain things that are definitely a food, but can also be used medicinally. I mean, you can technically use things like sage medicinally. You can use garlic medicinally. Like a lot of naturopaths and stuff will do that. So I've got to find out kind of these. So do we need a food handler's permit? Yeah, but it's straightforward. I've actually had a Utah one before. They're really easy. We may do that on probably our next live stream. So it's straightforward. So as long as you have a food handler's permit to make or package foods in their home kitchen after being approved by UDAF through the inspection and registration process. Okay, so that's probably, and this is going to be one of those things, as I'm building this, and I'm actually kind of building this out with my dad, I'm going to talk to him about this particular one, because what that means is we can do it in our home, but we need the Utah Department of Agriculture to actually come in and inspect and make sure the home's clean, things like that. I know my home's automatically off limits, even though we keep it clean, do everything we can. We have dogs. And so that in and of itself, having Huskies is going to rule us out, that I just don't even want to go down that rabbit hole. Not worth it. So we'll definitely get the food handler's permit. So we don't have to do a commercial kitchen, but there are options for commercial kitchens for rent that aren't particularly expensive. So since we already know this, let's just do a quick Google search. Commercial kitchen rentals near me. We're just going to take a look. I want to see what these prices are. For the right, okay, in around Spanish Fork, Utah, and all other areas, offering rates as low as $12.50. So let's take a look. So this one's Lemon and Sage Kitchens. Let's take a look here, guys. This seems like a good option. Ended up being on here. It's rent per month. So you can do it per hour as well. So this is just a listing on there. This is like Craigslist for Utah. It's called KSL. So they have this nice commercial kitchen. You can come in, you can work in. I mean, the funny part about doing herbs and spices is we're really not cooking anything. We're really just mixing stuff together. But you do have to have to know you have your food handlers and everything else. So they have monthly memberships. I mean, 10 hours a month is going to be like more than enough, honestly. You could come in there and you could batch a lot of stuff in 10 hours. So nice part is you can kind of do this. It's 24/7 access. That's sweet, because what that means is if you're, let's say you were in my position, but you were working a day job and starting something off, 24-hour access means you can in the evenings, in the night, in the early mornings. I feel like I want to go there at 1 o'clock in the morning because I know there's going to be nobody there. I'm just going to be in, out, done, and gone. Like, you can actually legitimately do that. So they've got a lot of stuff available to you. Commercial mixer, that could actually be really helpful when we're mixing spices and trying to put things together. So honestly, for $12.50 an hour, 10 going to be $125. That might be worth it. We don't need to get there yet, but at least it's nice to know we have it. So, so this is the legal business formation. Consult a lawyer and accountant for initial setup. It's optional but worthwhile to make sure you do this. Again, I would say, honestly, if you're trying to bypass it, you really can just go with something like Ready, Set, Launch and some help with some AI, or you can do something like, I think it's LegalZoom, if I remember correctly, is one of those that'll actually set you up, make sure you've got all the legalese handled. So that largely takes care of our business formation. I did say I wanted to come back to these and just kind of see what it actually has. So define the product line and niche, find high quality sources, test and finalize the recipes. So some of these we already have, like our flagship offer. We already kind of know. I already kind of know this, so we've got that. This is so interesting because it's like we'll do all this product development stuff before getting to the other things. Now, I normally would not do that. And maybe this is because I come from a marketing background and things. I am more inclined to work on this from the brand, the identity, which we've already done some of this. And again, I want to get a couple things. I want to get some of the legal stuff done first before jumping into what the actual brand and identity and logo and things we're developing are, just because I want to make sure we're protected and have our LLC and stuff filed. So, but it is nice. They walk you through the branding and identity, walk you through your store setup, marketing and launch prep. That could be a huge one. And this, I would argue, again, these things are somewhat out of order in a sense. Or you can do them in a different order. So for example, building a pre-launch email wait list, that is actually something you can do while you're setting up your Shopify store. You can actually set up a simple landing page, and you can either sell pre-orders or you can sell pre-orders. Is actually nice. Let's talk about this from a strategy perspective, because if we sell an actual pre-launch pre-order and everybody's purchasing these things, the really nice part about doing this is that what you're going to get is you're going to get some cash flow coming in, and you can actually almost make to order. So for example, if we're going to launch our signature seasoning, our signature flagship product, and we're like, okay, well, we know what it costs to make X amount of this, and we're going to try to put it together. Well, then if we have all these orders and we're like, okay, we know we have X amount of orders to be able to buy all the stuff we need to make a batch. The batch is actually going to create, so if we need 100 orders, I would actually say it's closer to 10. If we need 10 orders to be our break even, well, out of that those 10 orders, buy all the materials to make everything we've satisfied, we've now made zero. We're at break even. We're not making just 10 batches for that 10 orders. You're actually probably going to make something closer to maybe 100 individual servings. And so what that actually ends up leaving you with is, I would probably say somewhere in the neighborhood of, let's say 80 to 90% of the materials that are basically profit other than, shipping costs and things and basic operating costs. You're making one big batch, and you have to sell X amount of it for it to be profitable, and you really can. And that's kind of one of the cool parts about this. So you could pre-sell everything, just go, hey, we need X amount of pre-sales. And this just occurred to me. This is an interesting concept, and it really is. It reminds me of a conversation from Still Untitled, which is a podcast by Adam Savage from Mythbusters. And they're talking about prop building, which is where you make costumes for like Comic-Con and things like that. Or you're making, prop displays. For example, some of the Indiana Jones stuff I have back here, I made. Those are props. And one of the things he mentioned in a conversation was that there's a minimum order quantity. They're actually talking about, let's say, for example, the fabric needed for a flight suit, I think is what they were talking. And they go, when a TV show goes to make a bunch of these flight suits, they buy the whole thing in bulk. They make all the flight suits, and then they really don't buy it again. And so there's like minimum order quantity. So if somebody like me or you wanted to go buy this product in order to make it, they're going to have to buy it in a minimum quantity. It may come in like 100 yards, and they only need 2 for their suit. And so it's like, man, I got to spend all this money to get this. And so what they'll often do is they'll go on to, it's called the RPF, Replica Prop Forum. That's a mouthful sometimes. And the RPF actually has like runs where people are like, hey, I'm going to buy 100 yards of this. Who all would like to buy it? And then everybody goes, well, I'll buy this one, this one, this one, this. And then at the end, the person who put it all together bought the whole thing, cut it up, shipped it out to everybody. They probably got theirs for free or made some money doing it. But they negotiated it for everybody, this big bulk discount, because they were able to buy massive amounts of this fabric. And I just realized, like, you could structure a business this way, where you could say, hey, you know what? We do these made to order quantities, so they're as fresh as possible. Our minimum required order is we need at least 10 orders. We're looking for our first 10 people to try this out. And if 10 people buy it, then you make the whole order, and then you sell the other 90 off afterwards. And it basically can create your stock in your inventory, and would actually be a good way to test products out and see if there's actually a market for them. And you just be like, hey, we're testing these out. We're going to offer them on a discount, sell them out, something like that, just to get them moved and get some feedback. That is one way to do it. Now, you can also do a pre-launch email waiting list. So this is where you're going to have some type of a giveaway, something you're going to give them. And again, we can work on this. We will work on this. But to try to build an email list, set up marketing platform. Klaviyo does really well with Shopify. I like Klaviyo really well. Go High Level is another one that's great. So I would look into that to see if that natively integrates as well. Klaviyo has some really sweet features, honestly. So I may actually, we may decide Klaviyo is the way to go on this. We'll see as we go. Social media profiles, plans on launch promotion, operations and fulfillment, making sure, are we doing USPS, UPS, FedEx? Do we need to have a business account? Like, there's a bunch of this stuff we'll have to set up. And then we'll actually do a full launch, and that launches your program. And then from there, there's a whole other long list of things we're going to do to market. Like this is going to take a while. We're going to do a lot of these, and this is why we're going to do 30 minutes a day to try to set these things up, to get them, configured, have money moving in and out, and all this stuff to be able to try to get a store and a business up and launched. So we're basically at our 30 minutes for today. I'm going to cut it off there, and we're going to go ahead and do this. If you're watching this after the fact and you'd like to know or like to have a checklist for your business, DM me or comment checklist below, and we'll reach out and we'll work with you to get a checklist for the business you want to launch, and we'll help you, get that configured and set up so that you have a plan of how to move forward. Anyways, guys, this was fun. It's kind of my second live stream ever, and at least on this platform, and it's a good kind of test of things. So I like the way this is going, and